Hey, second graders, it's Mr. Sargent here with your Day 83 recap video for ELA and for science. Now, today in ELA, we're doing something special where we're learning a little bit more about onomatopoeias. If you don't know what they are, we will be talking about them today. I'll introduce you to your new spelling words, and then in science, we are going to be talking about the parts of a seed. So, let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we get into today's lessons, I want to talk to you about a little contest that we're having here at GPA. Now, as you know, the Super Bowl is coming up in a few weeks, and we couldn't be more excited. Now, what does this have to do with the contest that we're having? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we decided here at GPA to have a Are Ready Super Bowl contest. Now, if you could see behind me, you will see that we have a football field. Now, each one of these balls will represent how many iReady lessons that each grade level completes. Now, our goal, well, other than to do our best in everything that we do, is to have more iReady lessons completed before February 7th, the day of the Super Bowl, than any other class. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe in each and every one of you, and as I know you know, iReady is a great tool to practice our reading and our math skills. So I am encouraging all of you second graders out there to do as many iReady lessons as possible. I know for me, I'm not gonna be giving a lot of homework over the next couple of weeks because I want you to focus on your iReady lessons. So do 30 minutes a night math, 30 minutes a night reading, and I guarantee we're really gonna represent the second grade. Now, if you're in another grade, same rules apply, go for it. Every lesson that you do will count towards your grade. And I cannot wait to see which level and which grade level gets the most iReady lessons done. So let's talk a little bit about figurative language. Now, figurative language is words and phrases that are used in writing, especially poetry, that use the senses. Now, if you remember what our 5 senses are, we have touch, we have smell, we have sight, we have listening, and we have taste. Those are our 5 senses. Now, when we're writing, sometimes it's hard to describe how something tastes or describe how something smells. We use figurative language to make a better connection with our readers. Now, the first bit of figurative language that we're going to be talking about today is, well, probably my favorite word in the English language, and that is onomatopoeia. Go ahead and try to say it. I know you can say it. It's a fun word to say, but very difficult to spell. Now, onomatopoeias are probably the easiest to identify. They use sensory words that deal with a sound, okay? So, if we look at our activity right here, we have, the number 1 is a duck. Well, how does a duck sound? But how do we spell that? How do we use that in words? Well, all we have to do is spell the word quack. Q-U-A-C-K. That's it. And we put that right on the line. Let's go through here. Let's see if we can find any more. How about the drum? How does the drum sound? Very good. Now, if you notice there, we have... that was more like a bass drum, wasn't it? We have other drums that may sound different, like, there you go. But how do we spell that? Well, you could spell it boom, 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 B-O-O-M, B-O-O-M. Or you could spell it in ways that I can't do it, but you listen to the word and try to break down the sound based on the word. So when someone tries to read these words, they're making the sound instead of reading the words normally. Go ahead and give this activity a try, and I'd love to see all the onomatopoeias that you can assign to each one of these pictures. After this activity, we've read the story, Picnic Guests. So, in this story, we're going to see a number of examples of figurative language, or sensory words. But we're going to focus just on the onomatopoeias. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and read this together. Picnic Guests by Cynthia Reach. Buddy napped in the noonday sun. His furry golden belly faced the blue sky. His 4 legs stuck straight up like fuzzy fence posts. Well, if you haven't figured out yet, Buddy is indeed a dog. Crunch, crackle, crunch. Ladies and gentlemen, there are onomatopoeias right there. Those aren't real words, but they do give us an idea of what sound is being made. Buddy's eyelids popped open. What was that noise? Crunch, crackle, crunch. The noise came from somewhere in the grass, and it was getting louder. Suddenly, Buddy jumped back. Something was marching toward him. A long parade of something very tiny and very noisy. A parade of ants. Buddy blinked his eyes. The tiny insect carried teeny forks and knives. Some lugged lawn tents and chairs. Where are they going? Buddy asked. To a picnic, of course, said the ant leader. Why don't you come along with us? Buddy snorted in surprise. See, there's another one right there. I'm sorry to interrupt the story. The word snorted. Okay, do we know what kind of emotion that gives off? Well, go ahead and try to snort. Yeah, if you've ever gone near a dog's food, when the dog's around, you know that doesn't make the dog very happy. So the author here uses words like snorted to come up with a sensory word here. Why, thank you, he said. That's very kind of you. Buddy looked carefully at the ants marching through the grass. Something was missing. Excuse me, said Buddy. I'd love to join you, but I think you've forgotten something for your picnic. Forgotten something? The ant leader stopped. What could we possibly have forgotten? Well, if you look at the picture right there, you can probably predict just what they've forgotten. Why, the food, of course, said Buddy. All the ants squealed with laughter. There's another one of those sensory words, squealed. The ant leader pointed to Buddy's food dish. The food is already here. Buddy gulped. Ooh, that was his food. He felt a snarl forming. There's that snarl again. And if you look at that a couple words before, we have the word gulped. All right, these are all sensory words. These are all onomatopoeias that definitely help us understand the story a little bit better. But then Buddy looked at the giggling ants. His snarl stopped halfway up his throat. These ants were his guests, his guests. A slow smile pulled across the corners of his mouth. Woof, woof, barked Buddy. Once again, onomatopoeias. Welcome. He grabbed his favorite ball and joined in the picnic parade. Now, if you looked, the author here used words such as snarled, snorted, giggled, woof, woof. All of these words are onomatopoeias. They are sensory words that are used to kind of let you know what Buddy was feeling. Now, parts of the story, Buddy was kind of nervous. When he gulps, or when he snarls, you know exactly what Buddy is feeling. And that is the power of onomatopoeias. So what onomatopoeias can you think of? I'd love for you to write down a few and share with me tomorrow in class. I look forward to seeing your answers. Now, speaking of words that have certain sounds in them, let's take a look at this week's spelling list. Now, this week's spelling pattern has the sound to it. Everyone go Well, what letters go with the Well, the MP. Very good. So a lot of our words this week will have the sound in them. So let's go over our spelling list right now. Number 1, farm. Number 2, fire. Number 3, home. Number 4, us. Number 5, move. Now, those first 5 words, those are our sight words, aren't they? Okay, let's keep going. Our next few words will have the pattern in them. Number 6, bump. Can you hear the in the word? Yes, it's at the very end, isn't it? Very good. Then we have stump, clump. Now, before I go any further, those three words also do something that we've been talking about with words. They also rhyme. The end sound is all ump. Bump, stump, clump. So if we were to write poetry and want to use those as some end words, we could, couldn't we? Then we have the three more words that have a different sound pattern. We have stamp for number 9. Number 10 is clamp. Number 11 is camp. Okay, so there we have stamp, lamp, clamp. So our pattern words this week are bump, stump, clump, stamp, clamp, camp. Those are great words to use in our writing, as well as they use that sound at the end of the word. And then finally, we have some more sight words. We have number 12 is pride. Number 13 is something you all enjoy taking, a test. Not really, I know. Number 14, event. Number 15, love. And number 16, guess. All right, so all of these words are on our spelling list this week. You can check out the assignment in the description below, or you can check your Google Classroom for any further information. In science today, we started our class by reviewing the 4 major parts of the plant. Now, if you take a look here, can you tell me what this is right here? Well, it's the roots. Very good. This is where the plant gets its water and minerals from. It also anchors the plant in one place. Next, as we go up, we have very good, you got it. It's the stem. Now, the stem gives the plant its support to stand up straight. It also is a way for the plant to pass and move its water and minerals from the roots up through the plant. Next, we have the leaves. Now, the leaves are important because this is where the plant makes its food through a process called photosynthesis. And then finally, we have our flower. Now, one part of the flower that I want to talk about today, well, it's where all plants start from, and that is the seeds. And the seeds on this plant can be found right there. So let's talk a little bit more about seeds. Now, you may have remembered a few weeks ago that we talked about something called the water cycle. And the water cycle is a series of steps in which water goes from one state of matter to another. Well, behind me, we have a plant cycle where we learn how a plant can go from a seed all the way through to a tree or a plant that produces a flower or a fruit that has seeds. Today's focus is going to be right at this first step, and that is the seed. Now, we may talk a little bit about germination and possibly a little bit about sprouting before we end our class today, but for the most part, we're going to be focusing just on seeds. So can you think of any seeds that you know that we may already eat? Well, we talked about sunflower seeds in class, as well as peanuts, acorns. We know that different fruits, like strawberries, have seeds on the outside of the fruit. We even have a picture of a peach right here, in which the seed is right there. But did you know that the seed is made up of 4 major parts? Well, let's learn a little bit about the 4 major parts of every seed. And before we learn about these seeds, let's learn about how seeds move from one place to another. Now, up behind me, you can see that a lot of seeds are moved through, well, animals. Whether they catch on their fur and they go from one place to another, or the animal eats them and, well, does their business somewhere else. Seeds are able to move away from their plant, their original plant, and go somewhere else and become new plants through animals. Some can be traveled through the wind, some travel on water, and some go through a process called expulsion, okay? We see a lot of that where you have maybe a seed sort of almost explode and it travels in the air. This right here is a great example of how seeds move from one place to another. So now that we know how a seed travels, let's talk about the different parts of the seeds and each part's function or the job that they have. So let's take a closer look at what's up here behind me. The first thing that we have is called the testa, all right, or the seed coat. Now, when you think about a bean or a seed or anything like that, it's got a coating on it, doesn't it? All right, this is the part that everything on the inside is protected, as well as it gives it a nice shell and a nice shape. The reason why the bean is shaped like a bean, well, it's because of the testa. Next, we have the cotyledon. I think I pronounced that right. But on the cotyledon, this is the big part of the seed, okay? This part right here is the part that, well, it feeds the young plant. This is all stored food for the seed to grow and kind of create its own food. Next, we have the radicle, which becomes the first root of the plant. It's through this root that the plant will be able to get its water as well as its minerals. And finally, we have the plume. Now, this plume is the first part that we get to see. Since we plant seeds underground, this is the first part that we get to see. And when you ever see something sprout or come up through, that's usually the plume. So all four of these parts together, well, guess what? This makes up the beginning of our plants. Now, throughout this week, what we're going to be doing is learning about the different parts of the plant. Tomorrow, we're going to be focusing and doing an experiment on the stem. So if you want to do this experiment, the only thing you're going to need is some celery, some water, a cup, and maybe some food coloring. All right? I'd like to thank everybody for joining in today on day number 83. Now, like I said, remember, the only homework you're going to have is the spelling list. Now, if you want to get on iReady, we're still doing that contest until February 7th. So ladies and gentlemen, get on iReady and do those lessons. I want to thank everyone for such an awesome day, and I will see all of you tomorrow.